Good evening, my friends. Thank you for tuning in again to another edition of Mi Gente on Air. It's great to be here tonight, and we're going to talk baseball today. We're going to talk about the Loons, the Great Lakes Loons, and what they're doing to honor historically the migrant workers that we have had here in the Great Lakes Bay region. And so I'm real excited to talk about that. As you know, I come from a family of migrant workers with the Rodartes when they came in the 1940s. And so there's been a long history of so many of the migrant families in our area that they picked pickles, they picked sugar beets. And so I'm real excited that the Great Lakes Loons and minor league baseball is giving homage to the migrant worker. And that's what our show's going to be about tonight and what they're actually doing throughout the season for the next 3 months. So please join us, and I encourage anybody to give comments or questions as we have someone here from the Loons with us, okay? So we'll be right back with the Mi Gente on Air.
Welcome to Mi Gente on Air on 100.5 and 790 News Radio WSGW and online WSGW.com. Now, here is your host, Larry Rodarte.
Let's play ball. Welcome to Mi Gente on Air. I want to thank you all for tuning in, and amidst a world of turmoil, we have to go on and find time to have fun and relaxation. And what better place to relax than a ballpark? And in our region, we have the Detroit Tigers in Major League Baseball, starring Miguel Cabrera. And locally in Midland, we have the Great Lakes Loons. This is their 15th year in existence. And this year, the Loons are excited to participate in minor league season-long initiative Copa de la Diversión, or Fun Cup. For 3 home games at Dow Diamond this season, the Loons will transform into Los Pepinillos Picantes del Norte, complete with special uniforms, food, and music that creates a fresh and exciting atmosphere at Dow Diamond. A celebration of rich history, Hispanic migrant farmers played in the Great Lakes Bay region's agricultural community. Los Pepinillos Picantes del Norte pays homage to their presence and contributions in cultivating one of our signature crops, the pickle. Pepinillos Picantes honors the impact our Hispanic community has created through the region with its Tejano influences, while Del Norte was commonly used by Latinos when referring to Michigan. The logo's vibrant colors palette signifies the community's dynamic spirit and emergence of its next generation. Isn't that wonderful? And today I have with me the General Manager of Business Development for the Loons, Mr. Tyler Kring. Welcome to Mi Gente on Air.
Thanks for having me, Larry. Glad to be on with you this morning, or this afternoon, I should say.
Yeah, this afternoon, this evening. And tell me a little bit about, I want to introduce you, of course, like I did, but tell me a little bit about what you do there at the Loons in Midland.
Yeah, absolutely. So for myself, I oversee, as you said, the business development side of the team. So that's really anything that involves getting folks to come to Loons games, whether that is ticket sales, sponsorship sales, marketing and promotions, or entertainment, community relations, media relations. Really, if it's anything that is front facing to the fan or to the general public, that falls under the areas that I oversee within the team. So doing shows like this, doing community outreach like the Pepinillos are, creating a very robust, vibrant promotional schedule is key to what I do every day in my role with the Loons.
And it's very important. And we are celebrating now the Great Lakes Loons in the community for 15 years. I can't believe that.
15 seasons, 16 years. Yeah, with the one asterisk year in 2020. But yes, it's hard to believe that we are in our 15th season of baseball at Dow Diamond.
Yeah, time just flies. I would have thought maybe 8 years, and here we are, 15 seasons, and that's wonderful. And I know that in the past, the Great Lakes Bay Hispanic Leadership Institute celebrated with the Latino Loons Night.
Yep, absolutely.
And so, we're happy about that. But we're continuing on moving forward in a new dynamic with minor league baseball. Not only are they giving this type of recognition locally to
Mhm.
Midland, but also throughout minor league baseball, right? Because I've seen logos for all the different teams.
Yeah, absolutely. So Copa de la Diversidad is going into, I believe it's either its fifth or sixth season and fifth or sixth year as a minor league baseball program. It started out as a very small test pilot series with teams in the various southern states of the country. We're talking Southern California, Arizona, Texas, very predominant Latino Hispanic communities down there.
Yeah, yeah, and I was very much involved with the Detroit Tigers
Mhm.
with their Fiesta Tigres for a number of years, dating back to like 2003. So I'm really happy to see that this is happening in the minor leagues as well, because that's the farm system. I mean, that's where
Absolutely.
these players are coming from all over the place. Where
Mm.
predominantly would you say is the area that the Latino players that are playing with the Loons are coming from?
Well, I'm glad you asked that because I looked it up earlier today to make sure I had it accurately. So currently we have 12 Latino players on the Loons roster. 3 are from Venezuela, 6 are from the Dominican Republic. We have 1 from Curacao, 1 from Panama, 1 from Colombia right now on the
Wow, the
roster.
Dominican Republic. That's just like in Major League Baseball. I mean, there are really some stars coming from there. And
Absolutely. It's definitely a pipeline, and particularly being a Dodgers affiliate, the Dodgers have a very, very strong presence and brand in general in the Latin American area. So to have roughly a third of the team come from that part of the world is no surprise to us.
let's talk about that, because I think a lot of listeners that may not be as informed about baseball in the minor
Mhm.
leagues, tell us a little bit the dynamics with the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Yeah, absolutely. So in minor league baseball, there's 4 levels to minor league baseball, and at each level, there is 1 minor league club for every major league club that's out there. So there are 30 minor or 30 major league baseball teams. There are 30 times 4 minor league baseball teams. So there's 120 minor league teams in the country. We are a Los Angeles Dodgers affiliate and have been a Dodgers affiliate since day one of the organization in our farm system. It starts out at the spring training complex for the Dodgers. That's at Camelback Ranch in the greater Phoenix area. The first stop on the ladder is at Rancho Cucamonga, California, with the Quakes. That's the low A team for the Dodgers. Next up is the Loons. The next step up in Double A is the Tulsa Drillers in Tulsa, Oklahoma. AAA level, the final rung of the ladder in minor league baseball is in Oklahoma City with the Oklahoma City Dodgers. That's obviously in Oklahoma as well. And then they make it to the show with Major League Baseball and the Los Angeles Dodgers. So you take that structure, multiply it times 30 around the country, and that's how you have the minor league system. We became a Dodgers affiliate when the team moved from Battle Creek to Midland. The team was purchased. They were a Rays affiliate at that time. The way it was done back in 06, 07 is team development contracts were typically on a 2-year or 4-year basis. So at that time, every 2 years, you would have a pool of minor league teams and a pool of major league teams that would come up. Then the best way I can describe it is speed dating on steroids, where you have basically like a week to pick out your dance partner to take to the prom for the next 2 years. And then you have to select who you want to go with, and that's who you go. So we had a little bit of an insider in Terry Collins. Terry Collins, most famously, is known for being the manager with the Mets, the New York Mets. He is actually a Midland native, born and raised in Midland, and was in the player development system with the Los Angeles Dodgers at that time. The Dodgers affiliation was one of the ones that came up. Terry, being a native of Midland, knew of Dow and Bill Stavropoulos, our president and founder, knew what a team in Midland could be, knew what it would be for the region, knew the strong support that the region would have for the team, and the quality of complex that would be built in Dow Diamond, and the vision for what the Loons would be in the Michigan Baseball Foundation, with the team being a 501c3 nonprofit. So the Dodgers became our affiliate and have been since 2007 in the inaugural season of the team.
Well, I know that, when I've attended the games in Midland at Dow Diamond, it's always a pleasure, and it's just a lot of fun.
Mhm.
And I want to encourage, all the Mi Gente on Air listeners, whether on social media or on the air, on radio, to come out and support this night, because this is really big. This is something I think that, has been a long time coming. And like I
Mhm.
said, we've had the Latino Loons nights in the past. Is this something of an extension of that, or have you just kind of like moved on to the minor league recognition of the baseball players and kind of under their direction with the uniforms and everything else?
I would say it's certainly an extension. I would say it's taking it to the next level. So with Copa came on board 5 or 6 years ago. Again, minor league baseball started it in a pilot phase with this select number of teams. So kind of the best way I can equate it is when minor league baseball rolled out their Pride Nights initiative for the LGBTQ community. The Loons are actually one of the first teams in that pilot program because of Dow's presence with Jim Fitterling and knowing that Dow is one of the year in and year out recognized as one of the most LGBTQ friendly employers in the country and the world. So the Loons were in that pilot program, and now Pride Night is one of those nights that well over half the minor league teams do,
Which they just recently had.
which we just had last Friday as well. Yeah.
Yes.
So that was the 5th annual Pride Night. For Copa, in the same light, is when you're doing something to honor a heritage of a group of people, you want to do it right and you want to do it well. And that gets into, this was a 3-year process for the Loons, but minor league baseball wanted to start it with the teams where they had the most robust Latino and Hispanic communities that they knew would do well, and they could really tailor it before we rolled it out to the other teams across the country. So you look at teams down south, probably the most notable ones were the Fresno Grizzlies, who Copa's identity became the Fresno Tacos and then the Fresno Lowriders. Those teams really got it up and going, show that, hey, this is a concept that the Latino and Hispanic communities will absolutely grab onto. And then it slowly started progressing, I would say, to the east, from the American Southwest to the east, still in the lower southern states. And then we've seen it move more north and north and north to areas where you would not think tradition in the sense of having a large Hispanic and Latino population like you would initially think, like the Great Lakes Bay region. I think we obviously know it as a very Caucasian community. We think of maybe Polish because of Bay City, maybe more African American because of Saginaw, but there is a very, very strong, robust Hispanic and Latino population in this area. So once it came north and we did our research and we took our time very much for developing Los Pepinillos, because you only have one shot to get it right. We don't want to mess it up on the first time of rolling it out. So as it's coming on board, it's definitely a piece of minor league baseball. There's about 90 of the 120 teams are in the program this year. And I would say in the next 2 to 3 years, you're going to see all 120 teams have a Copa brand and identity for sure.
Yeah. And that's awesome. I mean, that's what I talk about. We've come a long way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think diversity inclusion is really something of a big topic across the board, and it's just something that many businesses are reaching out to more and more so. And I think that's part of why you have a program like Mi Gente on Air here
Mm-hmm.
as well. And, I come from a background of farm workers. My mother's side and my father's side, they were both farm workers. My father, I remember talking to him about picking pickles and picking sugar beets. The pickles were in Seboween. He always mentioned that community, and as well in Pinconning. And so this is really hitting the heart of many of, I think, those of us who come from those migrant backgrounds. And we've always said that, those that put the food on the table for so many people are really the backbone of this country.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's one of the things that I find is just very heartwarming to know that minor league baseball, the Loons, as well as, even Major League Baseball, that they're recognizing the Latino baseball player. But in this case as well, they're also recognizing the culture and the music and more importantly, the historical significance of the migrant workers in the Great Lakes Bay region. And I know that a lot of my listeners, they come from migrant families as well. Tell me a little bit about how that was developed, and how that name specifically, Pepinillos Picante del Norte.
For sure. So when you look at the scope of Copa teams and names, we knew what we wanted to do, and we for sure knew the direction we wanted to go. Not necessarily that it was going to be the Pepinillos Picantes, but we knew the concept that we want, where we really wanted it to be something that spoke to the local culture, region, and people. We didn't want to be, obviously you never want to be stereotypical, but we wanted to not come across as just lazy. And when I say lazy. There are teams out there that would simply translate their team names into Spanish. Like we were never going to just translate Great Lakes Loons into, and this is going to be a terrible translation, but like Loons Lagos Grande or something like that, like a very poor translation. And we didn't want to pick something that would be more like a merchandise grab, so to say, like the margaritas. There is a margaritas team out there, or the tacos, or again, something very stereotypical, or maybe a little appropriation in there. So for us, it was really a key to dive into, no pun intended, dive into what is the lasting legacy or impact that the Latino and Hispanic community has had on the Great Lakes Bay region. So with working with the folks at the Great Lakes Bay Hispanic Leadership Institute is really where that came in to help us. Okay, what's the story of folks in this region? And the story, much like your father's, was coming to the region for the agricultural business on a seasonal migratory basis. So, okay, there's something to that there. That's certainly what it is. How do we turn that into honoring someone, when in today's politics we hear a lot about migratory workers and things like that? We don't want to be offensive. We want to make sure we really do this population right and justice. So then we look at, okay, what are the largest crops in the region, or what could we speak to, or what was it? Sugar beets obviously come to the forethought of agriculture for this region. There's a lot of corn, there's a lot of grain, and then there's there's cucumbers, there's pickles. Like there's a lot of different options. So then it came down to, okay, of the crops that we could pick from, pickle sounds like the most fun. Okay, now we've identified the route that we're going to go. We know it's going to be the migratory population. We know it's going to be agriculture. We think it's going to be centered around the crop. We didn't want to do another animal because we're already animal heavy with the loons. We weren't going to do a person because we're not going to turn this population into a caricature. So now we're into a crop, and we're into food, and we're into vegetables. And we go, okay, well, we're not going to do the sugar beets. Like there's the Saginaw sugar beets, there's Michigan sugar. Like the sugar beets are pretty well covered. There's nothing real funny about like an ear of corn or like a stalk of grain or anything like that. And then we land, okay, well, there's pickles. Like pickles are pretty fun. Like pickles are everywhere. Basically, if you've eaten at a fast food restaurant east of the Mississippi, the pickles come out of this region. People like pickles. Okay, now we're like, okay, it's going to be a pickle, but we can't just be like the pickles. Then we go, how can we minor league baseball it? Then we're like, okay, let's set it on fire. So now we have the fire, and we're like, okay, now we're going to be the spicy pickles. And then we're like, okay, now we'll put like a bat in his hand to bring it to baseball. And if you look real closely in the logo, in the flames, the state of Michigan plus the Upper Peninsula is actually in the flames. So that brings the Del Norte into it.
Yes.
So now we have evolved into this guy, which we still don't have a name for him. We'll have to still come up with one. But now we have Los Pepinillos Picantes del Norte, the spicy pickles of the north. And so that's kind of the evolution of what went into it. Again, this was a multi-year process throughout the pandemic, delayed it a year as well. But a lot of thought and effort, because again, we only get one chance to get it right. We don't want to be disingenuous. We want it to really speak to it, but we also want to have that minor league baseball fun to it. So that's why we picked the pickle. That's why he set him on fire. And that's why he's holding a baseball bat and everything like that. So he's very spicy.
Well, I'll tell you, I love it. I mean, when I seen that, I just smiled from ear to ear, because I've seen many cases where there has been, some really bad references to some of our culture and heritage, and so like when I've seen this, I know the history, of the migrant workers in this area, and most of us are here because our ancestors, they came to work the fields, and then they got jobs at General Motors, in the plants.
Absolutely.
And this was their American dream. And that's why we're here. And that's why there's so many of us that are celebratory, I guess you would say, of this idea. And, hopefully we'll go out and really support the Great Lakes Loons this summer, because tell us, it's more than just one night.
It's 3 nights. Yeah, so we have 3 Copa della Diverse. My goodness, I can't speak tonight.
Diversión.
Diversión nights, Copa as we refer to it in shorthand in the office and in the industry. So every team that's in the program does 3 Copa nights a year. Ours are June 17th, July 22nd, and August 26th. And so the Pepinillos will take the field each one of those 3 times. We are actually playing the Wisconsin Timber Rattlers next week when they come to town. They are actually sending their Copa uniforms with them as well. So we'll have both Copa brands on the field next week. I
Wow.
cannot recall what theirs is. We'll have to look it up, but it's a program that everyone's certainly excited for. The brand speaks with the colors and the vibrancy of the brand is certainly something we specifically went non-Loons colors on a very specific reason. Loons colors are dark red and green. We joke about that it's the Christmas team all the time in the office. This is bright yellow, bright blue, bright pink, like everything that is the complete opposite what the Loons normally are. So Dow Diamond's really going to look a lot different next Friday, and we couldn't be more excited for the rollout of it. If it's anything like ticket sales already are for the game and how merchandise sales when we unveiled the team, we think next Friday is going to be a really spectacular day.
Yeah, I went to look at some of those caps and the uniforms, and it says sold out. And
Sold
I'm
out,
like,
sold out,
wow.
sold out. Yeah.
I need to somehow get a copy of those because I would have loved to have worn one tonight here on the show and help promote it. But I just think it's so great, and I'm so glad that you're here tonight with us. And I think that the Wisconsin one, do you have that footage of the picture with all the different logos from the minor leagues? Because no, there's another one. Maybe I didn't send it to you, but that's really something to be able to have actually 2 teams in celebration of the Latino baseball players and the culture and heritage of Latinos in America. I mean, that's really speaking volumes as to how far minor league and major league baseball have come.
And there are some, and I encourage everyone to go out there, absolutely support the Loons and the Pepinillos, but go down the list of all the different teams and identities and that are out there. Like I said, there's almost 90 of them now in the country, and there are some really, really good ones with really cool backstories here. You look at one that has won awards year in and year out are the Eugene Monarchs out in Eugene, Oregon. So for out there, they chose the Monarchs because for that,
The Monarcas.
yes, for that portion of the population, they viewed themselves as monarchs, like a butterfly starts as a caterpillar, then turns into this beautiful butterfly. They
Yeah.
viewed themselves as coming to America. That was their transformation, like the butterfly does. So that has won awards. You look at some really fun identities that tap into the culture. I mentioned the Fresno lowriders. The lowrider community is enormous down in Fresno, California. And
Yes.
so the logo kit is very cool, but like what it means to that particular part of the country and that culture is phenomenal as well. So if anyone has time, the brand kits are phenomenal. The logos are phenomenal. The merchandise is super cool. It's obviously not a consumerism thing, but like it is very, very neat to see all the fun ideas and how they speak to not only just the Hispanic and Latino populations, but what it means for different portions of that throughout the country. You have the Pickles up here, you have the Lowriders, you have the Monarchs, you have all these other teams across the country. And it's really, really fun.
Yeah, and I think that it's really educational too to many of those who are attending these games nationwide, not just locally, but I mean those that attend the Great Lakes Bay Loons and they have maybe not had any awareness or knowledge of what the migratory agricultural aspect has been in our community. It really gives it a chance to speak about it like we are today. It gives us them a chance to kind of know a little bit about the history that it is affecting not only their ancestors, but themselves, as still we do have migrant workers who are working the fields in our communities and putting the food on the table, the lettuce and all. So, I mean, it's really a good initiative. I'm really happy.
It's to your point, it's a great education opportunity. One, not only about the people, but about the agriculture and the economy in the region. So it checks a bunch of boxes. Yes, the spicy Los Pepinillos Picantes del Norte is a great name, but it gets a lot of attention because it's very long. It's very some find it hard to say, but then when they see the pickle and he's on fire and he's swinging the baseball bat, it's a natural conversation starter. The natural question is, why are you the Pickles? And then it gives us a great opportunity to explain the story and tell the story of why it's important and why the identity is such a great representation for the region.
Yes, definitely. And I have one of my listeners on here on the social media, Rudy and Narcy and CISO. Oh, it's so good to see you guys on here on Facebook. They say, I want a hat with the pickle logo. Can't wait to order. So
Loons.com is where you can certainly get that in the limited sizes we have left, but I guarantee you there will be a reorder very, very soon.
yeah, I hope so, because I also want one in Tabitha Lanehart. She says, hello, Larry Rodarte and other gentlemen. And again, we are so happy to have the Loons here tonight. And Tyler, you have done a great job, and I'm so happy that we are able to have this voice, to be able to be at the table to talk about what is actually happening with the Loons. Louis Loon, we got to see him with a shirt on and maybe a cap.
We'll have to find a 5XL because that's what size Louis is. So.
And Louis, I want to thank Louis so much because he did appear in our Cinco de Mayo parade earlier last month, and that was awesome. It was the first time we had Louis Loon in the parade, and I was just thrilled. But we're going to go into commercial real quick, and we're going to come back and talk more about the Latino Loons and the Pipanillos Picante del Norte. So stay with me. No te vayas. Come right back. Thank you again for being with us. I hope that there will be some more comments, because we always like to include our listeners as well as those on social media. It's important because, as I've said so many times on this show, Mi Gente on Air is your show. It's not just my show, it's your show. And I really want to give the opportunity to thank WSGW for allowing us to have this platform. And I'm excited to continually bring the show each week and talk about those issues, cultures, concerns, and our contributions to the community. And next week, we're going to talk with the Castle Museum about an exhibit that is incorporating Dia de los Muertos. So we're excited about that. That's happening as well in the Great Lakes Bay region this summer, and they're going to be there until the end of August. But we're going to go back into the Mi Gente on Air, talk more about baseball and the Latino Loons. So please send us some comments, ask any questions. We've got the general manager of business development here, Tyler Kring. Is it Kring? Is that how you say it?
In front of that's how I always describe it.
And he's very knowledgeable about what's happening over there. So if you got any questions, now is the time to ask them.
I do love questions. It makes my job much easier when I can just start spitting out Loons fun facts and trivias and answers. It's much easier for me. So
definitely. And thank you so much, Rudy and Narcy, for listening today, because I haven't seen you guys in a long time. I know that this pandemic has kept many of us away from each other now, but it's so good to see you, in the social media room for Mi Gente on Air. Okay, we're going to go right back into the show, and we're going to talk more with the Latino Loons.
You're listening to Mi Gente on Air on WSGW.
Welcome back, Mi Gente. Thank you so much for being with me tonight. And I want to talk again with Tyler King, who is the general manager for business development with the Loons, not the Latino Loons, the Great Lakes Bay Loons. I want you to tell me, Tyler, a little bit more about some of the standout Latino players, because I know there's some really good ones on the roster this year. You say you got 12 out of 30.
We have 12 out of 30, but I picked 4 guys who are really standouts this year. So it goes without saying that the number one player, Latino or not, right now on the Loons team that we're most excited about is Diego Cartaya. He's the current number 1 Dodgers prospect in the system. He's the first current number 1 prospect we've ever had on the Loons in the 15-year history of the team now.
Wow, that's really something.
It's really something. So
and that just happened, right? Like in the last week.
He made his debut last week with the team. Yeah. So he's only played 4 games with the Loons. Now we've had players former Loons go on to be the number one prospect, but we've never had one that was the current number one prospect with the team right now.
And that's Diego right there on the left of our screen here with some other players. But Diego Cartaya, he just signed last week, and he was the number one prospect pick for the Dodge within the farming system.
Within the farm system for the Dodgers. So,
Yes.
yep. So this is his first full year of professional baseball. So far in the year, he's already got 10 home runs with 34 RBIs. Now, most of that was with Rancho Cucamonga, the team below us. Like I said, he just made his debut with the team last week. He's only played 4 games, but he does already have a home run with us, and he already has 3 RBIs and is currently hitting .417. So that's a heck of a batting average if you know anything about baseball, really.
Yeah.
And if you're above 300, it's great, but he's above 400.
And how old is he? Like 20?
Yeah,
20 years old?
early 20s is his age. I can't tell you this is his exact age, but I want to say he's 20 or somewhere.
And where's this Rancho Cucamonga?
It's in Southern California, so it is 60 miles from Dodger Stadium. So it would be very much considered like a suburb of Los Angeles, but we're still talking like a ways out there, but definitely the closest team that they have. Next guy would be Alex De Jesus. He's currently the number 20 Dodgers prospect on the team. He also joined the team last week. He came in on the same flight with Diego, and if Diego wasn't on the plane, he would have been what everyone's talking about, but he got trumped by Diego. So unfortunately, Alex hasn't gotten his due in the spotlight. But he himself has already hit 8 home runs on the season with 24 RBIs. So no slouch of a player himself.
Wow. And his name is Alex De Jesus.
That's correct.
Okay, great. Yep. Wonderful.
And then we have 2 guys who are currently on the 40-man roster. This is the first time we've ever had Loons players on the 40-man roster as well. So Eddie's Leonard is on there with 7 home runs and 29 RBIs so far this year. And then Yorbit Vivas, also on the Dodgers 40-man roster, has 3 home runs and 24 RBIs on the year. So Latino players are definitely our big power hitters right now on the team, definitely making the splash. And you come to a Loons game, they're certainly the meat of the lineup and our everyday players right now.
And Diego Cartaya, where is he actually from?
Oh, we are going to have to look this one up. This is not in my notes.
Only because I'm wondering, like Miguel Cabrera is Venezuelan, and I know that a lot of the players are coming from the Dominican Republic.
Statistically speaking, most of the players do come from Venezuela or the Dominican. So, I mean, if you're going to bet, it's going to be one of those. When I look at the current makeup, 3 are from Venezuela, 6 are from the DR, and then we have a representative from Curacao, 1 from Panama, 1 from Colombia. So it's, the other countries certainly have representation, but Venezuela and the DR are definitely the major pipelines for Major League Baseball right now.
Well, good for these players. That is just awesome. I mean, it really.
Oh, but it looks like we have an answer on where Diego is from.
Jonathan, my producer, he's looking it up right now.
Venezuela.
I knew it.
There we go.
I knew it. He's gonna follow in the footsteps of Miguel Cabrera.
I think every minor league baseball would love to follow in the footsteps of Miguel Cabrera. So
yeah, I'd love to, ask him how he feels about Miguel Cabrera and his career and what it means to many of the Venezuelan players, today, the young people. I think that one of the questions that my listeners may have, and I know that I am interested in, is when they come here to the Great Lakes Bay region. These are players that predominantly speak Spanish only.
Yep.
And they're coming very young. Yes. And they're coming to the community of Midland. Tell us a little bit about that dynamic and how are they assimilating here, and what have you seen as their experience in the Great Lakes Bay region?
So it's not going to be as phenomenal as an experience as you may think. And that's not because it's a negative, not like the region's not welcoming. It's just the life of a minor league baseball player. So the Loons opening day this year was April 8th. I don't think they got to town until like April 5th. And that's traditionally like they fly in about 3 days before the season, do first batting practices, get uniforms, do like meet the team obligations with like season ticket holders. Like they're very structured those first 3 days. Then we get into games, and so a normal kind of schedule for the players on a game day for like a 7:00 game is they'll report to the stadium around noon for lunch. They'll do workouts, they'll do stretching, they'll do batting practice, things like that. Then they play a game at 7:00. Then they'll afterwards they'll shower, they'll do whatever. And by the time they probably get out of the clubhouse, you're talking 11:30, midnight.
Wow.
Then they're back at noon the next day. So that's for home games. But then you think that, okay, we play 132 games a year, 66 at home, 66 on the road in a span of about 145 or 150 days. And the days that they don't play, which is Mondays, those are league-wide off days, are travel days. So they're on a bus. So it's not like they have a ton of time to really go out and enjoy the region. They're either at Dow Diamond doing their jobs, or then they're on the road in another city in the Midwest, again, doing their jobs. So it's not as glamorous. They're predominantly out between the hours of like midnight or 2 a.m., if not a little later. Or then it would be like the morning hours. So as far as like, unfortunately, assimilating into the communities and getting to know the communities, there's not a ton of it, but that's just the result of being a professional baseball player. I think the same would go for like any Major League Baseball player. Like, you live in a city during your season, but your time is spent in the ballpark and then you go on the road. So
Yeah, because they're in Dayton tonight, right?
they are in Dayton. So fun story. I was on the SGW morning show in the studio this morning, and then on my way to the ballpark for work, the buses passed me going on US 10 going the other way. And so I can see you guys, like, have fun in Dayton tonight. So, that's a perfect example. So they played 6 games in a row at home. They had one off day yesterday. So maybe they had a day to go out and explore the community or just rest up. And then they got on a bus at 8:30 this morning, and then they drove to Dayton, Ohio, and then they'll play 6 games in Dayton, Ohio tonight. So,
yeah,
they do the vast majority of the guys do live with host families.
right.
And so the host family is a big part of getting the guys comfortable in the region and feeling like it's their home for the summer. And we try to match up the predominantly Spanish speaking players with host families that speak Spanish to give them a little bit more comfort there.
Of course.
So that would be, to be honest with you, that's probably the extent of them assimilating into the community and like getting to know the region. It's a byproduct of the schedule that they're here for 5 months. Now, those 5 months are expected to play baseball.
Well, I know that like at Dow Chemical, they have a number of Latino employees.
Mm-hmm.
And I see that increasing each year. And we actually had them participating in the Cinco de Mayo parade this
Mm-hmm.
year. And so they have also tried to reach out and kind of combine the communities of Saginaw, Midland, Bay City,
Mm-hmm.
the Great Lakes Bay region. And so I wonder if there's any not any collaboration between Dow Chemical as well as some of those employees in reaching out, because some of them come from South American countries as well.
Absolutely.
And only speak Spanish.
Yeah, Dow certainly has a large presence. I know in Brazil in particular that they have a large presence down there, in several other countries as well. And so, certainly we have folks the host families are pretty well connected into those communities. Just a sense that they've been tasked with hosting predominantly Spanish speaking players if they don't speak English at all, especially. And so we do our best to help them feel the most comfortable we can in the region. Especially when they're inside the walls of Dow Diamond or they're on the bus or on the road. But, if we can ever be a resource to them, we try to make ourselves as helpful and resourceful as possible if we can't provide the answer to them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's all kinds of, different layers when it comes to a baseball player from, starting as a young kid, then going to minor leagues and then the major leagues is what their goal is.
Mhm.
But, these are really at this point, playing with the Loons, an affiliate of the Los Angeles Dodgers. These are, really elite players, I would say already.
They are certainly elite players compared to like the Joe Schmo performance I would put on if I try to go out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, these guys are certainly coming to a lot of these guys. It was different when the Loons were low A. So to backtrack it a little bit, coming out of the pandemic, minor league baseball and Major League Baseball merged together into one organization. Most people don't know that those used to be separate leagues, separate commissioners, separate offices, separate everything, but they've now changed. In the merger, all low A and high A teams flip-flop classifications. That was really a result of travel and logistics. So half the teams in Major League Baseball, their high A teams at the time were at their spring training facilities. So for the Tigers, for example, because folks are going to be really familiar with that around here.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be that you would go to spring training in Lakeland. Then a first year player would go to Grand Rapids with the Whitecaps. and then
Yes.
say he got promoted, he would go back to Lakeland because that's where the high A team was for the Tigers. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So then the Major League Baseball just flip flop classification. So now a first year player goes to spring training in Lakeland, stays in Lakeland with that team. And that's really by design to give first year guys playing baseball that comfort level of being in one place and like not having to worry about moving and everything like that. Like that really helps with that transition. So when the Loons were the low A club for the Dodgers for the first 13 seasons of the team, we were the first stop in professional baseball for these kids, and they are kids. The vast majority of our players are going to be probably between the ages of 17 and 22. That gets a little older when you're talking domestic players from the States because you're talking high school draftees or college draftees, but international guys, we've had players as young as 16 years old play for the Loons.
Wow.
And so you think about a 16-year-old kid coming from a Latin American country who the future of the family is probably riding on this kid's shoulders,
Yeah.
coming to the States for the first time, and of all places, coming to Midland, Michigan. It can be quite the culture shock. And I'll tell you, there is no greater culture shock for these guys than when they get off the bus or get off the plane at MBS and it's 32 degrees out and they're seeing snow for the first time. Because you can walk into the clubhouse the day the team arrives and it will be 70 degrees in the clubhouse, but they're bundled up in parkas and like, what decisions have I made that have led me to this frozen tundra?
And they're probably still thinking, when is this weather going to warm up here?
And we tell them 4th of July and they're like, what? So yeah, so it's certainly a culture shock. Now it's a little bit different now that the Loons are high A because now our guys are most likely in their year 2 to year 4 of their professional baseball career. So they've been around the system a little bit more. It's not their first time through the ropes, but still we do have guys who are very newbies like Diego is to the minor league baseball system. As particularly in Diego's case, like he is a phenom, like Baseball America, Major League Baseball.com, like they're all projecting him to be on the Dodgers roster at some point next year.
Wow, already.
Already, in an expanded playoff roster, when they expand the roster, they're projecting him to get on in late 2023. So it's still a whirlwind when you think maybe a year ago he was playing in Venezuela and now he's in Midland, Michigan on a second minor league team and they're saying you're going to play for the Los Angeles Dodgers probably next year. So, yeah, a huge whirlwind for these guys. And it's a culture shock and adjustment for sure on a personal level.
Well, I'm going to have to see if we can get an interview with him for Mi Gente magazine.
I'm sure we could probably arrange that.
Yeah, for this summer since we're going to have him here. And the next year, probably not. So, I mean, we have done the Fiesta Tigres commemorative issues for many years. We did them for 10 to 12 years, and I'm not exactly sure if they're doing Fiesta Tigres with the Tigers now, but it was always so much fun to talk to the players, interview them, and have them tell a little bit about their stories and accomplishments in Mi Gente magazine and center on the Latino baseball player. And at one point, they had like half of their roster filled with Latino baseball players. Zumaya was the Mexican American from California at one point. Do you remember Joel Zumaya, who had
the 104-mile-an-hour
Yes.
phenom that would blow out his elbow every other game?
Yes, and it blew out nationwide on a game. I remember, and I felt that pain.
He was always as the classic Detroit sports go, the future is here. Joel Zumaya. 2 games later, he's done. Like it's just it was just classic like Michigan sports.
But I remember seeing him riding around in downtown Detroit at times, and he was just so friendly and waved to the people, and he was a great player. And I want to ask you a little bit because part of this whole celebration that we're talking about, is the vibrant colors that they're using, as well as the music and the food. Let's talk a little bit about that because that's going to be important, I think, for anybody who's considered going to these nights in Midland. Let's talk a little bit about the food.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we are doing our best to provide the most authentic experience. And I think for us, the most authentic experience will actually be us not doing it ourselves. And that sounds crazy, but if we want the real deal, we want to go with the people. So on June 17th, we'll have a food truck festival outside the front of Dow Diamond offering the most authentic, Latino and Hispanic food offerings that we can get in the region in food truck form will be out front. We will have our normal offerings in the ballpark. I'm not here to claim that nachos are a great representation or that street tacos are a great representation. Not saying that at all, but they will be there. We have to play to the pickles. We will have pickle flavored snow cones. We will have, I've heard rumblings of spicy pickle like fritters and things like that. But we're really going to lean into the food with the food truck festival that will take place out front of the stadium at the Larkin Beer Garden that's out front there at the home plate gate. So, Cameron, our director of promotions, has done a great job. He's reaching out to every food truck that fits the bill in the region, inviting them out, and we're still working hard on it. The list isn't finalized yet, but we'll have as many of those folks on site as we possibly can to give the most authentic flavor to the ballpark on this night for sure.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that we in our Great Lakes Bay region here, we have many food trucks, and a lot of our food that we are producing is Tex-Mex food. It's not traditionally sometimes the food from Mexico, although some of us are able to make that very closely to the authentic food. But there's nothing wrong with having Tex-Mex because that's a whole culture in itself.
Absolutely.
And I know that the Tejano influences that we have here in our community is so important to many of our people. And I know that the nights that you guys are honoring the Latino baseball player, there's going to be Tejano influences. So tell me a little bit about that, because that's really big in our community as well.
Absolutely. You take the normal music playlist that we have, and we're going to toss it up, wad it up in the ball, and toss it out for these days. So we are going, to your point, Tejano music, mariachi music, all the different musics that make these cultures great. To be honest, we are leaning heavily on our players on these nights. Like, we will go to the 12 guys on our roster and go, like, send us your Spotify playlist. Like, send us your, like, what's on your playlist right now?
Bad Bunny.
Yeah, it's all Bad Bunny. Like, it's so funny. So as a side, like, we asked the guys to get their, walk up music, and we're like, okay, like, we can pretty much peg it to a T. Like, so if you've got a guy from like Texas, it's going to be like some Luke Bryan or Luke Combs song, or you go down the list. Like, we can pretty much predict it. When it comes to the Latino guys, it's Bad Bunny. Like, it's just 12 Bad Bunny songs, and like they all sound the same. Like, come up with something a little more original, guys. But yeah, so we'll lean heavily on our players. At the end of the day, like, the atmosphere that we create in the ballpark is meant to be created for our fans, but the players feed off of it as well. So if they're vibing, if they're feeling it on that night, it'll be great for them as well.
Yeah. And I think that's really important, because I know that when I hear, the Spanish music at the ballpark, I mean, I'm old enough to remember when it first happened in the Detroit Tigers, and I was just amazed, but it just really moves your heart, because that's home. That's what really is so important. Our food, our culture, we're very passionate about that, and so that's something that I love seeing that's happening. What about also the vibrant colors and the palettes of the dynamic spirit that you guys are representing with the colors, with the uniforms and the caps?
Yeah, absolutely. So as we mentioned earlier, when we were designing the colors for the Pepinillos, we strategically did not want red, green, black, gray, although there is green because obviously it's a pickle, but it's not Christmas green or Loon's green, as we lovingly have referred to it. And we work with a company called Brandios out of California. They're a graphic design firm that specializes in minor league baseball. Basically, if there's a minor league baseball logo that's been made in the last 10, 15 years, Brandios did it. Brandios did the original Loons logo. They came up with the character for Louie. They came up with Rally. Like, they've been. You can't tell the brand story of the Loons without Brandios, and that goes for basically all the Copa teams. So, the original logos or concepts lean heavily on the Loons green, the Loons red, the Christmas colors, the tans, the up north vibe, if you would, that we lean into with the current Loons brand. And their explanation for that was, it ties it back to the normal team. And like, well, that's not what we want. We want something completely different and completely out there. So as we're looking at this, yes, we have a green because it's inherently a pickle, but it's a much more brighter fluorescent green than the Loons green is. We don't have the base cap is this bright blue. Even the fire in it, it's not red or orange flames. We went pink and yellow again, for the vibrancy and to speak better to the culture. Again, basically, we said these are the colors in the normal loon's palette. You're not permitted to use any of those. So that's why you see the logos and the concept, and that's going to carry out through all the stadium with Dow Diamond's spectacular digital assets. It's not like back in the day where everything's a hard sign. We can easily flip the colors on a game day. And Jimmy Mativa, our video production manager, Elizabeth Kitzinger, our graphic designer, and Cameron, they all do a phenomenal job of changing the look and vibe and feel every day for the team. So when you walk into Dow Diamond, it is going to be bright pink, bright blue,
Wow.
bright yellow, and everything like that. It's going to be really spectacular.
Jonathan, can you put that cap back on there? Because I want to make note of something there, which in the hat that he's wearing, it's not a typical sombrero, but it actually is a hat that one of the big Tejano singers actually wears on all his performances, and that's La Mafia, Oscar, with La Mafia, the Tejano band, and he's got flames coming out of it, and then I noticed also in the name of the baseball, the loons, the what is it again? I forgot.
Los Pepinillos Picantes.
Los Pepinillos Picantes. I forgot.
Vamos Picantes will be the hashtag.
But what I love is that Enye on the end is also in a flame. I mean, so that really speaks.
And the T is crossed with the flame as well. And I think your point to the hat is like, yeah, you could go the easy route and say, yeah, the pickle needs a hat. We're giving them a sombrero. But I would argue that's not as genuine or authentic as it would. That seems like the obvious thing to do. And so to even dive deeper into the fact that, yep, he's got a more authentic hat.
That's like something my dad would have wore instead of a sombrero out there in the fields.
Absolutely.
Honestly.
Yep.
So, I mean, you guys really, you did your homework. You did well. We're pretty
even
happy.
The bat that he's holding, like it's bright yellow. It's not brown, like to drag down the color palette. That was honestly one of the biggest challenges. They're like, okay, we have this very bright, powerful color palette and character. What do we do with a brown baseball bat? Well, it's yellow. So,
well, I want to thank you, Tyler, so much for being with us today. This was an important show to get off the ground before you guys start with the June 17th. Friday is the first night of the Copa de la Diversión night, and then July 22nd, Friday, and then August 26th, Friday. So mark your calendars to all my listeners, and I want to invite everybody to come out and let's participate. This is something where we can relax on a beautiful night in the summer in downtown Midland with the Great Lakes Bay Loons, and just really be thankful that they're giving that homage to our migrant field agricultural workers in our region, and that they, on a national level, minor league baseball is giving that recognition as well. So thank you again, Tyler Kring from the Great Lakes Bay Loons, and thank you so much for being with me here on Mi Gente on Air. Your first, right?
My first time, and thoroughly enjoyed it, and look forward to coming on again. And thanks for having me. It's been a spectacular time talking about the Pepinillos.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining me again. Until next week, I'll see you. I'm your host, Larry Rodarte. Hasta luego. How could I forget pepinillos? All of a sudden, my mind just went blank, but pepinillos picantes. Pepinillos picantes.
It was a very challenging to name the team something that rolled off the tongue, because the exact don't quote me, it's not the exact translation to like spicy pickle. It's a little off, but it's something we're close enough. And then the Lake County captains actually in our division, theirs is actually like a chili pepper, and so like spicy pepper was taken from like trademark purposes, so we had to like work it to where like it's a pickle, it's spicy pickle, and like luckily our rep at minor league baseball, Chanel Zapata, is actually a Latina herself, so she was very helpful in us coming up with the right wording for it. A hashtag was much harder to come up with. Like what we didn't want to do is fall into like the Liv Moss Taco Bell thing. Like that was not what we wanted whatsoever. And so we wanted something with spicy. It was like, okay, is it get spicy, go spicy, or like what, we've landed on Vamos Picantes. And I know it's an odd translation, but we needed something that all the other alternatives were words that we knew the generic fan was going to have a very hard time spelling. at least Vamos Picantes, people would be able to like use it on social and spread it. So
Well, I hope that this isn't the only time that you will join us, and maybe even if we can bring a player or have
absolutely,
them via
absolutely.
StreamYard or something as we go into the other nights in
Mhm.
July and August, because this is going to be happening all summer long. And I really want to encourage my friends and my family and my listeners out here. Let's support this endeavor. It's something that I think we can all use. With all the anxiety, depression that's going on in the world
Mhm.
today, this is a beautiful thing. And we've always been very supportive of the Detroit Tigers, and we've gone there for Fiesta Tigres, and Roxanne Chantaka would sing the national anthem, and we would have the Xochiquetzal dancers dancing the Ballet Folklorica
Mhm.
dances. And so, we can do that and support this because it's a much quicker drive than down
It's a
to
lot cheaper
Detroit,
drive
and
these
it's a
days
lot,
too.
yeah, with these prices these
Yeah.
days. So,
Yeah.
so again, thank you everybody. Thank you for the comments, and I didn't get to read them all, but thank you so much for being with me. It's always a pleasure.
Were
And
there
I
any
look forward.
questions we need to answer? Because I'm happy to answer any questions if folks had them on
No,
there.
I didn't see any questions, just mostly comments today. One was she says, "Hola, buenos tardes, mi gente magazine," and she says, "Sorry, I didn't know Mr. Tyler's name, Mr. Tyler."
Hey, I'll take Mr. Tyler. It's fine. I could call them much worse things on other radio shows and just out in public. So most people don't know. Obviously, on radio, you don't see people's faces here. It's a little bit different. But most folks are shocked to know that when they meet me, I look like I'm 15 years old. So, on other radio shows that I do in the region, I'm known as like the man child of the loons because I'm really 29. And so people are always shocked. Or like if I'm emailing with someone, they're like, oh, they think they're talking to like some 50-year-old guy. And then they meet me like, holy crap, you could be my kid. And I go, yep, might be. So,
Well, I would just want to give kudos to you and your staff, and Cameron Block, that I've been working with closely, prior to Cinco de Mayo and on, and supporting our Cinco de Mayo initiative in Saginaw. And those types of partnerships and collaborations are so important, and we can do some really great things. So
and this cause is near and dear to Cameron's heart. He grew up in rural Idaho, and so a lot of his best friends growing up, classmates, were again migrant workers. Obviously, in Idaho, it's potatoes,
yes,
not pickles, but the story remains the same. So this cause is very near and dear to Cameron's heart, and I can't think of anyone more perfect to lead this charge for us. His attention to detail has been great. Unfortunately, he was ill today, so couldn't make it in. He was originally scheduled to come in. But yeah, I can't think of a better person whose eye to detail and knowing what will fly and what won't. Then I don't think the Pepinillos would have turned out the way they have without Cameron being in charge of it. So
yeah, and I kind of picked that up when I had my initial interview with him on a Zoom call a few months back, and I said, "Wow, this guy really has some passion.
He
Here,
gets it.
Yeah, he gets it. Yeah."
Gets it.
So again, everyone, thanks so much. We're going way over time here, but it's a great show, and I'm so happy that we were able to present this to our community in the way we have, and you'll see upcoming stories as well in Mi Gente magazine. So signing off finally here on this Tuesday night, and my producer Jonathan Dent, thank you so much for doing such a great job. Today was work, wasn't it?
Yeah. Lots of stuff to put in here.
Yep, to prep and everything else. So thank you again, everyone. Have a good night.